Hi, it's Patrick Shucker Patty. We're back here at Canada's Food Island, and we're going to taste this super cool treat right now. I love cider as it is, but there's nothing quite like this one. And please tell us what we have here.
So I'm from Double Hill Cidery here in Caledonia on PEI. And what we did was we took our amazing Oistre Brut cider that is as pure European cider as you can get on PEI, and we aged it right before Fiona.
Oh.
Yes.
So you had a little extra kiss with Fiona.
We did.
Going on.
Thankfully.
So this is ocean aged. This one is
Yes.
ocean aged. This is how the bottle starts with.
This is how the bottle starts.
And why do you call it Oistre Brut?
We wanted it to be as traditional as possible. So we went with the traditional spelling. It is a broody cider,
Okay.
so it's very upfront, but we pair it perfectly with oysters.
Wow, brilliantly. And do you have a specific oyster you're thinking of? Or whereabouts on the island are you from?
Caledonia.
And I don't know where the map is right now, so.
So if you go down to the Wood Islands area,
Okay.
Pamir
Yep,
Island,
Yep.
we are right kind of in the center of there,
Wonderful.
off to the side.
Wonderful, that's great. And so this one was sunk in just the ocean, or what's the process of doing this?
So we have some fantastic friends down in Georgetown, and they allowed us to use a portion of their plot. What we did was we designed a few cages for the bottles specifically, and we dropped them in the harbor, and we let them do their thing.
How long was it in there for?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Already, just the 2.5 years cellar aged cider would be fantastic as it is. But I know from other things like port and other bottles that have been ocean aged. I know there's a couple of whiskeys that put them on top of a boat and travel it around the world.
Yeah.
There's something about the motion of the ocean and the rolling and the rocking around and the you don't know what. And then also getting it just into that environment that makes it super special and gorgeous. What I see first is, of course, you've got barnacles all over the outside of the bottle itself. The bottle I can see through, it's very clear on the inside, which is great. There may be a sediment at the bottom, we're not sure, we'll find out. Sand dollars and other things. So the encrusted bottle, I think, is absolutely gorgeous.
We tried to keep as much of the ocean culture on the bottle as possible while keeping it as sterile and safe as possible.
Well, yeah, it's all going to be sterile on the inside and
Yes.
stuff. And, it's just going to be critters on the outside, sort of like an oyster,
And they cocoon it, so
Yes.
it keeps it nice and still.
Wonderful.
We like to think of it as a quiet aging for the product, where in a cidery, you're always getting the hustle and bustle, checking the bright tanks. Someone's always moving in there. Where in the ocean, yes, there's the current moving,
Yeah.
but it's considered quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, what's the depth again?
About 14 feet, I believe.
14 feet is good and such. And it went through winter seasons.
It went through 2 winters.
2 winters.
Or 3, really.
Yeah, probably.
Because it was right before Fiona when we dropped the cages.
And Fiona. And
Yeah.
2 winters and a hurricane. It's not bad.
And
That's
then
pretty
we
good.
had to find them.
Did you GPS it at least?
We did, but unfortunately, we had some issues locating the cage. But we had a fantastic diver who was willing to go and find it for us. It was...
That is a fantastic diver, because if I was diving, I'm like, no, I didn't find it. I didn't see nothing. I'll go down again. But this is fantastic. Can we try this?
Of course.
Fabulous. What do you suggest? How do we do this?
Would you like to see the starting product
I think so.
before the aged
Let's do a
product?
starting product with an oyster, and then we'll do the finished product with an oyster.
Of course.
Or we
I
can do
mean,
starting finish and then oyster. We'll figure it out.
As long as there's an oyster.
As long as there's an oyster.
I'm happy.
And I've chosen a Cask and Bay oyster. We were up there just a day or two ago, and just to see the process. They're a winter oyster just brought up through the ice, and then so they're super lovely with a butteriness to it as well in the middle. It's got that ocean brininess, and very, very clean, which I think is fantastic. And I think it would be great with. And I got this fancy. Get the fancy glass. Is there a specific glass you're thinking of? Something like this?
So I compare our Oistre Brut to almost a champagne. So we have the classic champagne.
The bubble is really fine. It is champagne-like bubble. Very toasty dry. Lovely cider note to it as well. So it's big, it's tart, robust, You have a little bit of toasty and just really that perfect sort of cidery, clean finish to it. Very, very dry.
Would you like to know how we achieve that?
Apples. So tell me more.
So we take our Nomad cider, which is a blend of wild apples from all across PEI. We go, we forage them, we find them, and we brew them. And then we mix it with a specific type of apple that is very dry, very bitter. It's a specific cider type apple.
Okay.
And they almost look like little potatoes.
Why
with
not?
The brown skin,
We're here.
everything.
We're here in Prince Edward Island, so
why not?
Potato-looking apple. That's fantastic.
You wouldn't be able to eat this apple right off of the tree, of course, because the minute you bite into it, your mouth goes dry.
Yeah, it's too much on the thing, but we want to ferment it and use it for something else.
Exactly. It changes the same way a grape would. It brings out the sweetness, the tannins, everything that you're looking for in a classical cider.
How many different apples do you think you're using in the cider?
So with wild apples, each tree is its own genus.
Okay.
That's a really cool fact that I had just learned.
That's a cool fact. Well, we're learning cool facts all the time. So let's try this with an oyster. Do you want to have an oyster?
Twist a rubber arm.
Here you go, right there.
Thank you.
Cask and Peck Bay. And let's try this one.
Cheers.
Cheers. Sláinte. Right away I get a little bit of earthiness. There's an earthy umami to the front of this. Then the sweetness comes through, a little saltiness as well. The dark color of it comes from the peat bogs just next to it in Cask and Peck Bay. And that
is phenomenal.
lends itself to that earthiness. Now let me have a little sip of this.
Yes, please.
Do you want a sippy? You can sippy. And the earthiness lends itself to the dryness. It really kind of balances out quite nicely. And the saltiness, I think, helps neutralize some of that effervescence. Even though it's a very fine bubble, sometimes people don't want to have something too bubbly. The saltiness will actually balance that off, I think,
It does.
in this palate tasting right here.
And you get a slight amount of acidity from it as well.
Oh
to
yeah,
just
and it's
enhance
perfect.
it.
You need a little acidity that goes with the oyster as well. Let's try the ocean aged one.
Wonderful. Yes, this is very exciting. And you can see there's still barnacles on it.
Barnacles.
We try to keep it as ocean associated as possible.
You're gonna have to have a glass.
Oh, I mean, with this guy, yeah.
I'll have this one. You have the fancy glass.
Thank you.
You know, I'm not that fancy all the time.
Hey, it's cider. You can always be fancy with
Yep.
it.
Do you think there's a color difference?
A very slight color difference.
I think I'm looking at it, I think there's a little bit of a light color difference. It looks almost like I want to say it's a larger bubble. It might be the glass, but let's find out. There's fine bubbles down. Just the fineness of the bubble coming up in reaction to the glass, I think is exquisite.
And you can see some of the color difference just at the edge. The amber is slowly coming out of this guy.
Have you had one of these yet?
I was fortunate enough to try it right on the boat.
Everything tastes better on a boat. I'm just telling
It
you right
does.
now. It does. No matter what you have. Could be a ham and cheese sandwich. It tastes way better on a boat. Cheers.
Cheers.
Sláinte. You can see the difference 2 years makes and a hurricane.
Yeah.
it's
You can
delicious.
taste it.
It has really mellowed, I find. This is very, very bright. This has got a little bit, as like an older wine, it's got a little bit of age to it, a little bit more mellowness. It still has the effervescence, still has the tartness, but the tartness has settled down a little bit. Ooh.
Just really showcase the mouth there.
It's oyster time.
Favorite time.
Cheers again.
Cheers.
Woo. It's the cleanliness on that oyster, and as you breathe in, you get that sort of the earthiness of the shoreline. This is what I love about this type of oyster.
Oh,
Brilliant.
see?
Dive down, dive in the water's fine. Dive down into the depths of the ocean around Prince Edward and grab one of these bottles of cider if you can, because it might be all in my suitcase. That's all I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you
That was
so much.
fantastic.